Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. When we have a really good self-image, we realize a great life. We understand that we are a divine spirit gifted with an intellect living in a physical body. And we become aware that we have infinite potential, infinite. We don't even realize what that is. No beginning, no end, unlimited. Whatever you want, you can create. But it has to be something that you deeply desire. And it's not only for selfish reasons, but it's for the greater good, the good of you and all who you come in contact with, everyone whose life you affect. You can become happy, healthy, confident. You can strive to live your best life, not working harder and forcing and pushing, but asking for divine guidance, allowing universal energy to flow to and through you, creating ripples in the world, becoming the better and better and better version of yourself, evolving, growing, getting stronger, looking at life as a series of ups and downs, and knowing that if something is not going well in your life, it's going to pass. Knowing that you're being held, you're being uplifted. You don't have to do everything yourself. I picked up the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and I'm laughing at this paragraph. There was an issue of Cosmopolitan magazine that was published in January 1959. That's when I was born. I'm thinking, wow, that was 66 years ago, and people still don't understand this. This is something that should be taught in schools. It should be lived by everyone. But in, instead of that, mostly we're shooting on ourselves and telling ourselves we're not good enough. This article was written by T.F. James, and it summarizes the results obtained by various psychologists and doctors. It says, understanding the psychology of the self can mean the difference between success and failure, the difference between love and hate, bitterness and happiness. The discovery of the real self can rescue a crumbling marriage, recreate a faltering career, and transform victims of personality failure. On another plane, discovering your real self means the difference between freedom and the compulsions of conformity. The most important psychological discovery that was at that time, the early 1960s, is the discovery of the self-image. Whether we realize it or not, each of us carries about with us a mental blueprint or a picture of ourselves. It may be vague and ill-defined to our conscious gaze. In fact, it may not be consciously recognizable at all, but it's there, complete down to the last detail. The self-image is our own conception of the sort of person that I am. It has been built up from our beliefs about ourselves, but most of these beliefs about ourselves have unconsciously been formed from our past experiences, our successes and failures, our humiliations, our triumphs, and the way other people have reacted to us, especially in early childhood. From all of these, we mentally construct a self or a picture of ourself. Once an idea or a belief about ourselves goes into this picture, it becomes true as far as we personally are concerned. We don't question its validity, but we proceed to act upon it just as if it were true. This self-image becomes a golden key to living a better life because of two important discoveries. Number one, all your actions, feelings, behaviors, even your abilities are always consistent with this self-image. In short, you will act like the sort of person you conceive yourself to be. Not only this, but you literally cannot act otherwise in spite of all your conscious efforts or willpower. The person who conceives himself to be a failure type person will find some way to fail in spite of all his good intentions or his willpower, even if opportunity is literally dumped in his lap. The person who conceives himself to be a victim of injustice, one who was meant to suffer, will invariably find circumstances to verify his opinions. Isn't that crazy? But when you think about it, isn't that reality? If you think you're worthless, even if you don't admit it, you won't be able to draw success, money, love into your life because your subconscious doesn't allow that, because you don't believe that that's possible. You don't believe it could be true for you. Maxwell Maltz says, the self-image is a premise, a base, or a foundation upon which your entire personality, your behavior, and even your circumstances are built. Because of this, our experiences seem to verify and thereby strengthen our self-images, and a vicious or a beneficent cycle, as the case may be, is set up. For example, a schoolboy who sees himself as an F-type student, or one who is dumb in mathematics, will invariably find that his report card bears him out. He then has so-called proof. A young girl who has an image of herself as the sort of person nobody likes will indeed find that she is avoided at the school dance. She literally invites rejection. Her woebegone expression, her hangdog manner, her over-anxiousness to please, or perhaps her unconscious hostility toward those she anticipates will affront her, all act to drive away those whom she would attract. In the same manner, a salesman or a businessman will also find that his actual experiences tend to prove his self-image is correct. Because of this so-called objective proof, it very seldom occurs to a person that his trouble lies in his self-image or his own evaluation of himself. Tell the schoolboy that he only thinks he can't master algebra, and he will doubt your sanity. He has tried and still his report card tells the story. Tell the salesman that it's only an idea that he cannot earn more than a certain figure, and he can prove you wrong by showing you his order book. He knows only too well how hard he has tried and failed. Yet, we shall see that almost miraculous changes have occurred both in students' grades and in the earning capacity of salespeople when they were prevailed upon to change their self-image. So Maxwell Maltz tells us there are two important discoveries. Number one, all your actions, feelings, behaviors, even your abilities are always consistent with your own self-image. And the second important point is the self-image can be changed. Numerous case histories have shown that one is never too young or too old to change his self-image and thereby start to live a new life. One of the reasons it has seemed so difficult for a person to change his habits, his personality, or his way of life has been that heretofore nearly all efforts at change have been directed to the outside, the circumference of the self, so to speak, rather than to the center. Numerous patients have said to Dr. Maxwell Maltz something like, if you're talking about positive thinking, I've tried that before and it just doesn't work for me. However, a little questioning invariably brings out that these individuals have employed so-called positive thinking or attempted to employ it either on particular external circumstances or on some particular habit or character defect. They would say, I will get that job. I will be more calm and relaxed in the future. This business venture will turn out right for me, etc. But they have never thought to change their thinking about the self that was to accomplish these things. So it's not enough to change your behavior or your outside. You have to decide not only what you really want, what you truly desire, but getting into that feeling of what it's like, accepting that it's yours, being worthy of receiving, changing your subconscious programming. In Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz says, Jesus warned us about the folly of putting a patch of new material on an old garment or putting new wine into old bottles. Positive thinking cannot be used effectively as a patch or a crutch to the same old self-image. In fact, it is literally impossible to really think positively about a particular situation as long as you hold a negative concept of yourself. And numerous experiments have shown that once the concept of self is changed, other things consistent with the new concept of self are accomplished easily and without strain. One of the earliest and most convincing experiments along this line was conducted by the late Prescott Leckey, one of the pioneers in self-image psychology. Leckey conceived of the personality as a system of ideas, all of which must seem to be consistent with one another. Ideas that are not consistent with the system are rejected. If you believe that this system of ideas is part of your personality, you must believe that it's true. Otherwise, ideas that are not consistent with the system are rejected. They're not believed, and that means they can't be acted on. Ideas that seem to be consistent with the system are accepted. At the very center of this system of ideas, the keystone, the base upon which all else is built, is the individual's ego ideal, his self-image, or his conception of himself. Lecky was a school teacher, and he had an opportunity to test his theory on thousands of students. Lecky theorized that if a student had trouble learning a certain subject, it could be because, from the student's point of view, it would be inconsistent for him to learn it. Inconsistent for him to learn it. Wow. Lecky believed, however, that if you could change the student's self-conception which underlies this viewpoint, his attitude toward the subject would change accordingly. If the student could be induced to change his self-definition, his learning ability should also change. And this proved to be the case. One student who misspelled 55 words out of 100 and flunked so many subjects that he lost credit for 1 year became one of the best spellers in the school and made a general average of 91% in the next year. A boy who was dropped from one college because of poor grades entered Columbia and became a straight A student. A girl who flunked Latin 4 times after 3 talks with the school counselor finished with a grade of 84. A boy who was told by a testing bureau that he had no aptitude for English won honorable mention the next year for a literary prize. The trouble with these students was not that they were dumb or lacking in basic aptitudes. The trouble was an inadequate self-image. They identified with their mistakes and failures. Instead of saying, I failed that test, which is actual and descriptive, they concluded, I am a failure. Instead of saying, I flunked that subject, they said, I am a flunk out. I don't have a mathematical mind. I'm just naturally a poor speller. For those who are interested in learning more about Lecky's work, you might want to get a copy of his book, Self-Consistency, A Theory of Personality. Lecky also used the same method to cure students of such habits as nail biting and stuttering. Maxwell Maltz says his own file contains case histories that are just as convincing. The man who was so afraid of strangers that he seldom ventured out of the house and now makes his living as a public speaker. And there was a salesman who had already prepared a letter of resignation because he thought he just wasn't cut out for selling. And 6 months later, he was #1 on a force of 100 salesmen. The minister who was considering retirement because of nerves and the pressure of preparing a sermon every week were getting him down. And now he delivers an average of 3 talks outside of his church in a week, in addition to his weekly sermons. And he doesn't know that he has a nerve in his body. So what is the secret? You have to have a new concept of yourself. You can develop a new self-image. You can't develop a new self-image by willpower or simply arbitrarily deciding to. There must be some ground, some justification, some reason for deciding that the old picture that you have of yourself is in error and that a new picture is appropriate. You cannot merely imagine a new self-image unless you feel that it is based on truth. So we have all kinds of false beliefs about ourselves, but we think they're true only because we've followed a pattern. We've said the same things or thought the same thoughts or felt the same feelings for so long that it is. We've become that. You must see yourself the way you want to be, with the picture of what you want to have, with what you want to be doing, and believe that of all the infinite possibilities, all the potential, that it's true for you. The truth can set you free. An inadequate self-image, if you think intently about what you really truly want and accept the truth about yourself. Science has now confirmed what philosophers, mystics, and intuitive people have long declared. Every human being has been literally engineered for success by his creator. Every human being has access to a power greater than himself. This means you. As Emerson said, there are no great and no small. If you were engineered for success and happiness, then the old picture of yourself as being unworthy of happiness, a person who is meant to fail, it must be in error. It's wrong. It's just something that you've said and thought so much that you've made it a truth, a belief in yourself. But it's in error. So here is a basic principle by which your success mechanism operates. You don't need to be an electronic engineer or a physicist to operate your own servo mechanism any more than you have to be an engineer in order to run your vehicle. You don't have to become an electrical engineer in order to turn on the lights in your room. But you do need to be familiar with the following concepts. You have a built-in success mechanism. It must have a goal or a target. This goal or target must be conceived as already in existence now, either in actual or potential form. This built-in success mechanism, this powerful psycho-cybernetic mechanism inside you, in all of us, it has to have a target. What do you really want? What are you shooting for? What would you love to be or do or have? This success mechanism operates by either steering you to a goal that you know is already in existence, or by discovering something already in existence. It's so powerful. Just allow it to work in your life. Don't try to make it work. Just allow it. This automatic mechanism is teleological. That means it operates or must be oriented to end results, to a goal, to a target. Don't be discouraged because the means whereby may not be apparent. It is the function of the automatic mechanism to supply the means whereby after you decide on the goal. It is the function of the automatic mechanism to supply the means whereby when you supply the goal. Think in terms of the end result, and the means whereby will often take care of themselves. This means that you must relax and allow it to happen. Visualize your goal. Get emotionally involved, what it feels like to be there. Why do you want it so much? The means by which your success mechanism works often take care of themselves and do so effortlessly when you supply the goal to your brain. The precise action steps will come to you without stress, tension, or worry about how you're going to accomplish the result you seek. Many people make the mistake of interfering with their success mechanism by demanding a how before the goal is clearly established. It's only after you've formed the mental image of the goal you seek to create that the how will come to you, not before. Remain calm and relaxed, and the answers will arrive. Any attempt to force the ideas to come will not work. As Brian Tracy wrote, in all mental workings, effort defeats itself. Don't be afraid of making mistakes or of temporary failures. All servo mechanisms achieve a goal by negative feedback or by going forward, making mistakes, and immediately correcting course. So you must decide what you want, visualize it, feel yourself already being, doing, having that, and step out and take an action as if you know what you're doing. Just try something. If you fail, don't call yourself a failure. Dust yourself off, learn a lesson. Oh, that didn't work. And try something else and try again until your goal becomes your reality. Write it down, feel as if you're already there, and do something today that will take you one step closer to that life that you truly desire. Enjoy your day. Create a wonderful day. And I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you.